Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to LL3-Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realms of planet Earth. Today's date is Monday, June 2nd, 2025. This is episode 1844. Putin's condition for peace is the rollback of NATO's border from Russia. Before I proceed, you can follow me on multiple social media sites and podcast channels. Just type in Looky Luck number 3, Looky Luck Roman number 3 with 3 eyes, or Looky Luck Roman number 3 podcast. Furthermore, if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. You can hit me via email to LL3-Podcast at proton.me. If you want to donate, go to PayPal.me or cash.app/Looky Luck number 3. If you want to hit me with at Steemit LL3-Podcast. If you want to give me a little crypto love or follow me, okay? Not that difficult. Just give it a glimpse. Don't be shy. Oh, my goodness, man. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. Banks maybe falling apart. Tensions in China and the U.S. And I was looking at the worst states to be gun owners. And according to this, I'm not going to go too bonkers here. The top 3 are, you could say, treasonous. Mostly a lot of these states here are treasonous, you can say. But the top 3 less friendly. Hawaii number 1, Massachusetts number 2, and California number 3. Oh, yeah, they hate their own state constitution with a passion, right? Absolutely. That's how pathetic these illiterates are. And, of course, like the top 2, I think, although the top 3 pro-gun states is number 3, Arkansas, number 2, West Virginia, and number 1, New Hampshire. Yeah, it's interesting. I know it looks like Arkansas really improved, too, through all the years. So I'm really happy about that. Remember, folks, you're the first line of defense. The police are not obligated to protect you, even though certain states like Florida may re-modify the Sovereign Immunity Tort Liability Act, but it's not 100% guaranteed. Okay, so I keep that simple. And of course, we got like that claim what happened in Boulder, Colorado. It could be a potential false flag attack. An illegal alien, actually, a person that was expired visa, was considered an Egyptian nationalist. So interesting there. So it goes on and on and on. And like I said, here, the Supreme Court declines to hear challenges to assault weapons magazine ban. Let's see where this comes from. I think it's Yours News. Just browsing through here. YoursNews.com. It's a pretty cool site, so check it out for yourselves. And, of course, they refuse to hear the challenges. And, of course, magazine bans are held at where? They don't really say Second Amendment, states and all that. Yeah. But you know what, my friends? Oh, Maryland, of course. Don't worry, folks. Maryland, Connecticut, you do have your right to keep and bear arms. And even Rhode Island, just to name a few of the states. You do have that right. It's in your state constitutions. Even in Maryland, they have I think it's a Declaration of Rights too, which is article, if I'm correct, is 28 and 45, enumeration of rights. It doesn't say the right to keep and bear arms, but enumeration of rights is like equivalent to the 9th Amendment. You have those natural rights even under English common law. So I'm just giving you that input because we all have natural rights. Deal with it. Don't let those goofballs tell you how to think and live and wipe your own butts because they can't even do it themselves. You can't be armed, but their bodyguards can, right? Total hypocrisy 101. Give them the big middle finger, especially jury nullification and the anti-commandeering doctrine. Every county in those states should tell them to stick it. If the counties in Illinois can do it, so can yours. Yeah, so that'll be enough of that. I know how Mount Etna was erupted, so everything's going into insanity as usual. But I'll continue on here with this article. Came from PaulCraigRoberts.org, came out today. Putin's condition for peace is the rollback of NATO's border from Russia. And just to let you folks know, he relies on reader support, so please support this man the best you can. Donate, give him a little love. The latest news on the war front serves to introduce today's column, ever-widening war, with Putin focused on useless peace talks. Ukraine or Washington or NATO attacked 4 Russian Air Force bases and destroyed a number of strategic Russian bombers, the BBC reports. An operation has said take 18 months to prepare, which I'm not surprised. Score of small drones were smuggled into Russia, stored in special compartments aboard freight trucks driven to at least 4 separate locations, thousands of miles apart, and launched remotely towards nearby air bases, according to BBC News. There's links for that. If this is true, Russia's strategic nuclear forces were attacked from inside Russia. This seems to be a massive failure of Russian intelligence. Curiously, the Russian English language sites RT and Sputnik have little to say this morning about the successful attack that Ukraine claims destroyed 1/3 of Russia's strategic bomber fleet. Instead, the news services babble on about the second round of peace talks. There's also Russian news reports that 2 bridges inside Russia were blown up, resulting in deaths and injuries from the SputnikGlobe.com. Please, folks, read it for yourselves. It seems that Putin still does not realize that Russia is at war. I wouldn't be surprised. So I'll continue on. Putin's condition for peace is a rollback of NATO's border from Russia, Paul Craig Roberts, during the long conflict in the Russian provinces in Ukraine. I have posted many reports on the ever-widening war. We are approaching the point where the conflict opens into a full-fledged war. The question is, does anyone in the Western governments understand this? It remains to be seen whether the successful Ukrainian attack on Russia's strategic bombing fleet will finally wake Putin up to the coast of his ever-widening war. This cost is likely to raise as Europeans have removed all limits on the weapons and on the range of the missiles that will be supplied to Ukraine. Is this a negotiating tactic to pressure Putin, or is it Europe's entry into a war with Russia that European politicians have recently talked so much about? If it's the latter, why does Trump permit it as it undercuts the peace negotiations that Trump said would end the conflict? I have to explain Putin's patience with the conflict in terms of his hope that peace negotiations can be turned into a wider agreement that achieves mutual security as the end of the conflict between Russia and the West. Putin's views of what these conditions have gone without examination in the Western world. Instead, there have been absurd demands that Putin agrees to an immediate ceasefire before he knows what the agreement is, that Putin agreed to give back some of the conquered territory, that Putin dropped his demand for the demilitarization of Ukraine, and so forth. It's a long time past for the West to come to terms with Putin's conditions of peace. Putin's principal conditions is that NATO be rolled back from Russia's borders to the position that existed in the late 1990s. In other words, the failure must be rectified of the Clinton regime to keep the promise made by Washington that in exchange for Soviet approval of the reunification of Germany, NATO will not move an inch to the east. NATO must roll itself back from Russia's borders. No more Poland, Finland, Romania in NATO. If peace negotiations turn out to be an opportunity for Putin to achieve a broad agreement that addresses Russia's security requirements, a likely consequence is that Putin will find himself under pressure to drive NATO out of Ukraine as a demonstration that NATO can be defeated. If a mutual security agreement is not then forthcoming, will the Kremlin conclude that Russian security is impossible to obtain unless NATO is driven out of Europe? I have emphasized in the beginning of this conflict that what originated as a low-level conflict would, as a result of the restraint Putin put on Russia's conduct of the conflict, widen and eventually spin out of control. It remains to be seen whether the successful Ukrainian attack on Russia's strategic forces will wake Putin up to this fact. Possibly Putin has not yet rid himself of his hopeful delusions, but Russia has. If Putin is again refused a mutual security agreement as he was in the winter of 2021 to 2022, thereby forcing Russia's entry into Donbass. The conflict in Ukraine could cease being limited to a military operation to protect the Russian-occupied provinces now reincorporated into Russia. Putin will be pressured to take off his constraints on the conflict. Russia intends to be sovereign, and Russia intends to survive, with or without Putin. If you look at the data on Russian armament production, it has increased dramatically and is not deployed in the front in Ukraine. It seems that Russia is building a powerful military force that NATO cannot understand, especially if Washington is preoccupied with Iran and China. The question is whether Europe and America are even capable of fighting. No European government has the support of its ethnic nationality, or white Europeans and American ethnicities willing to fight for governments that have intentionally overrun citizens with immigrant invaders. In the United States, discrimination against white American citizens is institutionalized. The Assistant Attorney General in the U.S. Department of Justice has revealed the fact that it's intent of the U.S. Civil Service to make white heterosexual Americans second-class citizens. And this was posted on the 27th of May by Paul Craig Roberts. Pretty crappy. Doesn't matter what your ethnicity is, right? In the Western world, there's a narrative that it's Russia that is in the wrong, and the U.S. and NATO and Ukraine that are on the right. This is nonsense, and the Russians know it. The West used the Soviet collapse to break up Russia, turning former Russian into Soviet provinces into independent countries. Then the West financed and orchestrated color revolutions that overthrew Russian-friendly governments, installed Russian hostile governments, used them as in Georgia in 2008 and Ukraine in 2024 to attack Russians and Russians' interests. Similar attempts were unsuccessful in Belarus and in former Soviet Central Asian provinces. On the top of these hostile Western moves against Russia, U.S. missile bases are operative in Poland and Romania. It is possible, that Western policymakers think that Russia does not see the hostility directed against them. If this hostility cannot be ended and rolled back with a great power agreement, is Russia preparing for a wider war with the West? For Russia, this is an existential issue. It is a serious mistake for the West to continue its provocations of Russia. All of humanity is at risk. Putin could not care less about a negotiated peace in Ukraine. He wants to end the 75-year-old East-West conflict, and that requires a rollback of NATO to its 20th century border, end of the sanctions, end of Washington's hegemony. This is the real issue, and no one is discussing it. I think that Putin's hope for great power agreement is unrealistic. It exceeds the imagination of the American foreign policy community. The Western world is lost in its own false narratives. War will be the result. The time Russia won't stop at the border with Western Europe. Interesting synopsis by Mr. Paul Craig Roberts. And this is why, my friends, foreign entanglements should not be in America's best interest, period. Constitutional wars are necessary for defensive purposes, not imperialistic purposes. George Washington warned us about this in his farewell address, Thomas Jefferson's first inaugural address: commerce to all, foreign entanglements to none, with none. So, just paraphrasing. And whether you like Donald Trump or not, I have my reservations with the man too. In good faith, he don't want to see any more bloodshed. He should, as far as I'm concerned, he should tell Rubio, hey, stop supplying the stuff to Israel. All right? So, there's too many pawns in the game, including what's going on over there. I renounced this for a very long time on these coup attempts and so forth. I can see people like, what's that woman's name? Her last name is Newland. Throw her posterior on the front line if she hates Russia so much. The young men and women that serve in these United States should not be involved. Throw all the neocons, the warmongering pimps in there. You see how tough they really are. That's how I see it. Even the Russian government, the people there aren't really lovey-dovey. Many of them, there's claims, reports too, that many, like 1.5 million of them left the country between like 20 to 35. Same thing happened in Ukraine too. So now you got more foreign entities, NATO. And there's some people who claim that the head person of NATO wants this war. You know why? Because the Rothschilds, the banksters benefit from it. They don't give a damn about the people. Though we got to throw those maggots in the front line too, as far as I'm concerned. It's time to give these usurpers, justifiably, the Ceausescu or Mussolini effect. That's my intake on this. And I know it maybe sound brutal, but you know what? These ingrates that want this war, they want to sit back and have us do their job. The hell with them. And of course, I do agree with Roger Waters when he renounced Russia invading Ukraine, but they didn't provoke it. You can say whatever you want about the man. He could be an arrogant a-hole for all I know. But he's right. Always question these things, folks. And of course, many people may claim that a false flag attack may happen. And they want to blame, in the United States, they want to blame Russia. Instead of say, let's do it, we got to say, prove it. Nothing baseless, no beakering. Where are facts? You always got to question these things. If you can't grasp that, you haven't learned the damn lessons on what happened on September 11th, 2001. End these wars, period. Let the political maggots duke it out themselves. These bureaucrats, not individuals like you and I. That's worldwide. A lot of things are collapsing. The people are getting a little ticked off of their governments. And in America, I know I stress this enough. One of our main heritage and customs is never trust the government. Any questions? Please read the Declaration of Independence. When in doubt, rinse and repeat. And that will be it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this about your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, and all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. You can hit me via email to ll3-podcast@proton.me. I will leave the link of this episode on the page. For the donate, go to paypal.me or cash out at /3. Or not, hit me, give me a little crypto love. Follow me at Steemit LL3-Podcast. And plus, if you can support, donate to Paul Craig Roberts, that would be greatly appreciated. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.